Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Fourth Place Vlog podcast. This is Cloudst, and I'm joined by my two very interesting people, 13Goals and Magneto. Hello, Magneto.
Hello.
And 13Goals. Hello.
Hello, sexy people.
I was more enthusiastic than Magneto, actually, so I'll give him props for that.
Well, Magneto is super
enthusiastic.
enthusiastic.
Well, Magneto does hate mutants, humans, so I can completely...
Hates everyone.
Yeah, he does hate everyone. Anyways, we're going to be talking about the English Premier League, and we're going to preview it. We'll start off with the four clubs that we'll be talking about today. We'll be starting off with Manchester United. Manchester United had a very interesting season this past season, but now they have a very new future to look forward to with David Moyes. We'll also be talking about Manchester City and their new signings. Obviously, Mancini was sacked, and they're also entering an era of Manuel Pellegrini. Then we'll be talking about the Mersyside club, starting with Everton. Obviously, Moyes went to Manchester United, and we'll be talking about Martinez and what this team brings to the EPL next season. And we will then talk about Liverpool, where we will have a special guest to discuss Suarez and all the other interesting developments in the club as well. First off, we'll start off with Manchester United. Now, Manchester United obviously came off their English Premier League title winning campaign last season. They were all around the most dominant team in England last season, obviously. But then after the season ended, Sir Alex Ferguson announced his retirement, and David Moyes took over. Now, 13Goals, this is obviously a new era for Manchester United after so many years of watching Sir Alex Ferguson at the touchline. We now see David Moyes. What do you think David Moyes is going to bring to Manchester United, and what do you think is what is the expectation for the upcoming season for Manchester United?
Well, the expectation for Moyes is definitely for him to do well. I mean, he's living in one of the shadows of one of the best managers that the Premier League has ever seen. Probably the best, if you count just by trophies. So he has to do very well to get out of his, not only Ferguson's shadow, but the fan shadow as well. And judging by the reaction I have seen from them, they are really scared about going into this new era. I mean, they've had it good for so long with Ferguson, that this new, with Moyes and his new kind of, rigid system has been a real punch to the gut for their fan base. But I would say he can do well with the players he has and the setup that Ferguson has created. He can do very well with them. I do see him doing well, but I don't see him doing well as everyone has got him predicted to do.
So you don't think they will do as well as...
I don't think they'll win the league. I still think that's Chelsea or City.
Okay, now let's ask Magneto. Magneto, obviously, Moyes was at Everton for many years. Now, basically, he's taking the spot of such a great manager like Sir Alex Ferguson. Do you think the weight of expectations will put pressure on Moyes, and do you think it's going to be a struggling season for Manchester United?
Moyes is a very interesting manager. I really, before AVB came in last season for Spurs, I really wanted Moyes at Spurs, and I really rate him highly. But the weight of expectation, you are leading Manchester United now, and Manchester United fan base are, they are expecting top quality management because they have been a little spoiled by the length of the career of Sir Alex Ferguson. So it is not going to be easy for Moyes. Is he going to get the support of the entire fan base once, if the results don't start going right away with, in his favor? So it remains to be seen if they'll get on his back a little. But if they don't, if they give him the time to, settle down and whatnot, he will take the club forward in the right direction. But initially, it will be a bit of a struggle.
Okay, let's just take, he is struggling a bit right now, and he has the Wayne Rooney saga to figure out. Now, this isn't the first time David Moyes has dealt with Wayne Rooney in itself. He's actually dealt with him at Everton when he sold Wayne Rooney to Manchester United. Now he's dealing with the same thing once again. Do you think the Rooney saga has any implication of how Moyes usually is referred to as person who can't hold on to players. Do you think this will be a problem going forward for Manchester United, Magneto, or do you think this is just a one-time thing?
It's probably a one-time thing here, because Rooney has been somebody who's been giving sort of, indications that he wants to leave every single season. It's been 3 seasons now where he's been, I want to leave, and he signs a new contract. It's a lot to do with agents. Again, we all hate agents and what they bring to the footballing world. But this could be the chance that an agent sees to say, this is a great opportunity for me to push Rooney to either, get a new contract or go away from the club, either way where he makes a commission. And Moyes, being a new manager to such a prestigious club, is going to feel the heat of it. So it's not in general situation that Manchester United cannot hold on to their players. This is a one-off situation with Rooney.
Okay, I'll just throw this question to 13Goals. Obviously, as Magneto was saying, this is maybe a one-time thing, but their inability to bring in players, obviously they've also only made one signing, just like Arsenal. But do you think there's questions being raised about Moyes' ability to bring in star players? Like, they've been linked with Fabregas and Thiago, but neither of them materialized. Do you think that's a problem going forward for Manchester United?
I don't think it's his inability to bring in new players. I just think he's going around it really kind of arse backwards. Because he seems to have this weird fascination with Barcelona midfielders. And he kind of thought that if he didn't get one, he could go get the other, which is kind of crazy. Considering if Barcelona, if they lose one, they'd want to keep the other. So it's not that. I think he's really going about it the wrong way. In my opinion, he needs to try to do what he did at Everton. Try slowly build up by attracting smaller, more kind of average players who have a lot of quality to be tapped into. A bit like what Ferguson used to do when he started up at Manchester United manager. So I think he needs to try to do that rather than going for this big kind of marquee signing, especially in the midfield, because it just hasn't worked out for them so far.
But do you think it's the pressure of expectation that, Moyes is replacing Sir Alex Ferguson, so he has to bring in a star player?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's obvious. That's why they probably went after Thiago and then Fabregas after that, even though Fabregas didn't want to leave and Thiago just wanted to go be with his mentor again. So, it may also be that. It may also be he wants to cement his mark as the Man United manager right away with this big marquee signing. So I think it's a bit of both.
Okay. You make a pretty good point. I'll just throw this off at Magneto. Obviously, they haven't made any significant signings in the transfer window, but they haven't really lost any players either yet. Obviously, Rooney's saga is still going on, but they are aging. Now, where do you see Manchester United, where do you see Moyes influencing this? Where do you think Moyes will look to if he can't get the targets that he wants? Obviously, there's Jesse Lingard, who's playing in the preseason, and Adnan Januzaj, I believe. Do you think there'll be the options for Moyes going forward this season, or do you think he'll start to look for recruitments in the transfer market?
He will do a bit of both. The Belgian young kid, Januzaj, or I'm sorry, I don't know the exact name.
Januzaj.
He's played recently. Yeah, he's played recently against Sevilla, and he looked pretty good in that game. And I think he might play a bit of a role. And you have a couple of younger players coming in, like say Zaha is coming in now. Sorry, not Zaha. What the hell am I saying?
Zaha.
Zaha is coming in now. And, it's going to, he's going to have that effect where like you guys mentioned earlier, Robin, you were mentioning that he's going to bring in a couple of younger players and nurture them to become bigger players. But, it's not, he also has to, I believe, sign a marquee player. This is where I kind of feel that it's not just a question of getting in a good player. It is also a question of getting a marquee signing in a way that it deflects a bit of the pressure off him. The media and the fans are going to focus on the marquee player rather than him and how he's doing as a manager. So that's where he needs to bring in a midfielder. Paul Scholes has just retired. He's been excellent for the club and he's been brilliant, but he's retired now. Giggs is not getting any younger. He's going towards the coaching role, and it's players here that he needs to really bring in. And also Butner, he looks pretty average at left back. He doesn't look like a defender in the slightest, or at least he doesn't look like he's prepared to be in the EPL as yet. So it's a question where they need to bring in, is Fabio going to play a role? Is he going to try and bring in somebody like Baines, somebody like Fellaini to shore up midfield? So that's what's going to be interesting to see in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, but do you think he'll be able to pull it off with the transfer window shutting in 3 weeks?
Oh, yeah, he can pull it off. I mean, Manchester United clearly is going to have the money to back their manager. They've won the league, so it's not like they don't have the money. But he will pull it off. It's going to be, I believe he's trying to not look at Everton and not weaken Everton because he has been at the club for so long and he has an attachment towards the club. But as his options are decreasing from elsewhere, he will fall back on what he knows. And that leaves Fellaini and Baines.
Okay.
And he can definitely pull that off with the money they have.
Yeah, definitely. 13 goals, same question to you with, how do you, I think you kind of summarized this in a way, but with the aging players that, Manchester United have, do you think going forward this season, if they don't bring anyone in, they're gonna have a big struggle ahead of them?
That will depend on Moyes' performance. I mean, probably one of Alex Ferguson's greatest strengths was bringing, the best out of, quite average players. And he was always able to, bring them out to that next level to help them win things. But with Moyes, I've seen him do that a couple of times at Everton with, Pinar and, Yelovich and people like that. But I've never seen him do that on a massive scale. So it'll be interesting to watch. And with their aging superstars such as, Ryan Giggs is aging, there's no more Paul Scholes for them to call back on. Because remember when Paul Scholes left the first time, they got him back on loan, I think it was, and they started winning games again. So I mean, Paul Scholes is now.
No, he came out of retirement.
Yeah, he came out of retirement to help them again, and they started winning games again. They started catching up to Manchester City and eventually surpassed them, only to be nipped at the far post by Manchester City.
Yeah. So
it's going to be a big blow for them because they've been with the club for literally nearly as long as Sir Alex has. And Giggs has been fantastic year after year. Gary Neville was good when he was there. Just all this kind of like an English core that is, slowly drifting away, and, Moyes will have to deal with that as well.
Okay, 13 goals reference to the preseason. Now, their preseason hasn't been consistent. They've won some games, but they've also lost a couple of games. Now, Magneto, going forward, do you think the preseason of Manchester United is a preview to how they're gonna do in the season, or do you think it bears no reference to how they'll be in the English Premier League?
A bit of both. You take the recent game against Sevilla, which they played. I believe none of their major starters actually started the game. Players like Robin van Persie didn't play. There was, I believe, Carrick didn't come in until the very end, and there was no Evra. There was no. It's like they played a significantly weaker side than they normally have. And still, at the end of the day, if you look at it, quite a few players, even the reserves, people who's supposed to, show their most enthusiastic performances, didn't look all that enthusiastic. So, like, some of them were actually looking very leggy and very tired. And if they are not fit, a week from the start of the season. That is a worrying sign. That is more worrying than the losses. That is more worrying than, whatever morale effect it might have of not winning preseason games. They are not looking all that fit.
Okay, so fitness is now becoming an issue. 13 goals going forward. Do you think that Manchester United's preseason is a precursor to how they'll perform in the season, or do you think it's just something that's in the side?
Oh, it's definitely on the side. I mean, the preseason it's not like a precursor of how you're gonna do in the league. Not at all. I mean, I've seen a couple of times when my team, Arsenal, have had a horrible preseason, and they've went on to do pretty well in the league. So preseason's all about kind of getting your fitness up, figuring out positions, seeing where, how well they're gonna play and see about to go there, but it's just, I mean, it's kind of become like its own kind of spectacle preseason now with the movement of the internet and stuff like that people take it a bit probably more seriously than it needs to be.
Okay. That's fair enough. Anyways, that's Manchester United and our predictions in a basic little summarization. We move on to Manchester City. Now, Manchester City were, you could say, the second best team to Manchester United. For the last 2 seasons, they have been very, very good. But last season, at the end of the season, they ended up sacking Roberto Mancini. Now, obviously, some of the City fans were kind of disappointed in this, but then they brought in Manuel Pellegrini. And they brought in a lot of signings, which cost them quite a lot of money. Magneto, I'll go to you first. What do you think of this new Manchester City team with all their additions? And going forward, do you think they are the main challengers for the title?
They are going to be the main challengers for the title this time around, I think. They brought in a lot of players, and it's the question though is that, are the players they brought in really the players that they need to bring in, that they needed to focus on in depth? And I'm not sure that they brought in Jesus Navas, who's not had the best couple of seasons, and they paid a decent amount of money for him. And it's really a question of, where is the backup in the heart of defense, where Nastasic recently got injured, but it doesn't really look like it's going to be going on. There's any replacement in sight. And we're talking about 4 to 6 weeks, and that he might be out still from this date. So it's a little worrying there. But, and even the signings up front, I'm not totally convinced by. I'm not sure. What do you think? I mean, do you think that, Jovetic is going to set the league on fire? Negredo especially, that is the signing that I'm least convinced by.
Okay, this is, my opinion, obviously. I believe, Negredo missed the most clear-cut chances in La Liga last season. Now, this is La Liga we're talking about here. Obviously, Jesus Navas, coming off of 2 average seasons, I would say. Last season, he didn't even score a goal. So, you have to be a little bit worried on that front. But obviously, Manchester City, they brought him in specifically for one reason and one reason only, and that's because of his crossing ability. And Negredo being the type of presence that he is inside the box, that would come in handy. Only, though, if that he can get it on target. Now, he misses the target more often than he does not. So I was a little surprised when Manchester City bought in Alvaro Negredo to their club. Steven Jovetic is a little bit more, it makes a little more sense. The guy can play on the wings, he can play up front, he can play behind the striker, but he hasn't looked as good as in the preseason, and I do think they paid a little bit over the price to get him, but I think they paid him more for his potential, his overall potential, since Arsenal were obviously linked to Steven Jovetic, so I did do a little bit of research on him. Last season he played mostly as a striker, and he plays mostly as a false 9. So they have options now going forward. Obviously, they let go of Tevez, So they have someone who could play that role now, and I think Jovetic will eventually come good. But I'm still a little miffed about Negredo. I think they would have done better if they got Soldado. But
Now, I'll actually get you back on a question here. You mentioned the crossing ability of Jesus Navas.
yes.
How many assists did he have last season?
How many assists did he have? I think he had around 10. I believe he had around 10. I'm not sure though.
Yeah. And you mentioned the number of clear-cut chances that Negredo missed.
Yes.
He had about 150 shots, I believe, for 25 goals. Make the conversion rate yourself. It's not all that great.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I'm with the two underperforming players that go into the starting 11. I'm not sure. Sorry about interrupting you.
No, that was completely, it's understandable, but, I was just talking about a little bit about Jovetic. You didn't really elaborate on it, but, since Arsenal were linked with Jovetic, I did do a little bit of digging up. He could end up being a good signing, but I think he'll struggle in his first season in the EPL, but 13 goals, where you are feeling a little bit left out here, so what's your opinion on, Manchester City's new signings?
I'm always feeling left out with you two.
Yeah.
I mean,
We do have
you mentioned, well, first we'll start off with Jovetic. You mentioned he'll probably not do too well in his first season, which I can agree with, and we'll probably see how much the Manchester City fans' patience are going to be able to deal with, and how well they're going to be able to keep to underperforming striker. Negredo's a weird one, cause, like you said, he does miss a lot of his chances. And, like, they already have Aguero and Zeko, so they really need a big kind of, another big striker instead of,
Center forward.
Don't get all zilch here.
I'm just saying, he's a center forward like Zeko.
A big center forward to be able to go in when they already have Zeko. I mean, maybe it was just they were just trying to fill in the numbers with Balotelli leaving and, Tevez leaving as well. Now, the one I was really surprised about was, Fernandinho.
Ah, yes, I forgot to talk about Fernandinho.
Because Fernandinho played amazingly in the Ukrainian league with, Shakhtar Donetsk.
Yeah.
And he plays so well there, so it'll be really interesting to see how well he does in thing. And one thing you guys forgot about, Jesus Navas was his homesickness. And this is the first time he's moved to, another big country with another big league in it. So I'll be interested to see how he does with that.
I believe he said he took therapy to battle that, so I think he is over it. I don't think that's an issue anymore.
Oh, we'll see.
I guess it will.
A couple of podcasts ago, this is before other podcasts, ladies and gentlemen, Cloudst made fun of me for choosing Jesus Navas as Seville's best player. So, we'll just leave it at that.
He was Sevilla.
No, you said it was Rakitic. And
Rakitic was their best player.
Barca show kept taking shots at me about it.
No, wait. A little birdie just actually posted, who likes trains, by the way, just posted that Navas has only 6 assists last season and no goals.
Assists. Yeah, no goals and 6 assists in the league. Mind you.
Cloudst can be wrong?
No, I did say that Navas wasn't their best player, though.
No, you didn't. You said Rakitic was.
I said Rakitic was their best player.
Yes, I said Navas was. You took pot shots at it.
Yeah, and I actually agree. Navas is not the best player.
Yeah, he wasn't that great. How can you not, as a winger, how can you not score a single goal in the last season? You're supposed to be Spain's starting winger. One of Spain's starting winger, and you can't score a single goal in the season.
For a matter.
Okay, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered if he scored assists. There are no assists either to show. So what does he bring? And okay, the little birdie again actually says he made 61 shots in the league. So at 61 shots, no goals, and 6 assists is an extremely poor return.
Well, 13 goals. I'll just say this, that if Navas does well, it's because he's gonna be assisting Zeko, not Negredo. Let's just leave it at that. Because Zeko is more clinical than Negredo will ever be. And Pellegrini confirmed that Zeko will be the starting striker in the upcoming season.
But Aguero's better than him.
Aguero will, you can place Aguero anywhere on that front three. Literally, like, if Mancini's gonna use, not Mancini, Pellegrini is gonna use a 4-3-3 system, which most likely it's looking like that. Aguero can play on the wings. He could possibly play behind the striker as well. Aguero could play the Tevez role if you wanted to. He did it with Forlan. He could do it at Manchester City. It's one of the reasons why Aguero is one of the world's best strikers. We have to be honest here. Like, seriously, you can place Aguero anywhere on the front line. So I don't think Aguero should be the focus point here. It should be more to why Negredo was brought in. If he's going to back up Zeko in case Zeko gets injured, I don't think he'll be able to produce as much. That's just my opinion.
Okay, a question to follow this up. Where do you see Silva playing then? We've got Jovic, we've got Navas, we've got Zeko, we've got Aguero. Negredo. Okay, where is Silva going to fit into this?
Okay, the way I see it, this is my opinion. Unfortunately, I missed a lot of the Manchester City's preseason games. I didn't even get to get a glimpse of one. But if I saw the striking options with Manchester City, I would possibly try to employ a 4-4-2, because it makes the most sense. If you put Silva on the left, Jesus Navas on the right, and play Aguero and Zeko up front, that would make the most sense. But I haven't seen how Manchester City play. I mean, that was the formation that Pellegrini played in Malaga. He played a 4-4-2. So I wouldn't be surprised if he used the same formation in Manchester City.
Well, there is a reason this is called a preview rather than a review.
Exactly. Yeah, so I think Silva could play on the left, answering your question, Magneto. I think he's a guaranteed starter for left. That right wing, it's Milner. It's up for Milner and Jesus Navas. I think Navas is gonna get it.
Am I the only one who finds Milner on the wing, like, really weird? Like when Aaron Ramsey was on the wing?
That's straying off topic, but a little bit. But anyways, let's move on a little bit. Let's talk about Manchester City's. Okay, we've been talking about the front line a lot, obviously, but let's talk about their lack of defenders. I think Magneto mentioned this. So Nastasic is injured going forward in the season. If Nastasic and company are both a little injury, I think company is a little injury prone, just in my personal view. 13 goals going forward. Do you think if this problem persists, that Manchester City are going to have a major problem on their hands, especially considering they might be challenging for the title?
Well, if this problem does persist, like all the way to January, Manchester City can always use their unlimited funds to bring in another centre-back. Who that might be would be, I don't know, I have my suspicions, but it may be a problem. It depends mostly on if Nastasic and company can stay fit. Because other than them two, I mean, they've lost Colo Torre, haven't they? Who else do they have?
They have Julian Lescott. Richards, Julian Lescott.
Yeah. Julian Lescott has never really done it for me ever since he moved from Everton. Oh yeah, and he's a youngster, Retic.
They also let go of Maicon, just to remind you.
Yeah, but Maicon's terrible.
That's it, Maicon.
I think Maicon still has horrible memories of Bale and getting outrun.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's staying off topic.
Yeah, but okay, I'll go to Magneto, who's obviously the Bale man here. But what do you think of the defensive problems for City? Do you think they really lack depth there? and that might be a problem going forward?
Yeah, this is a squad that's got to compete on two fronts. This is a squad, both the league where they have got to take, they're in prime position to take advantage of Manchester United's transition period. And they also need to start performing in the Champions League, which they have not so far after the takeover. So, it's a situation where if for those two competitions as well as the cups and whatnot, it's not enough to have what they have. I think they still need one defender just as a backup. It really depends on how much faith they have in Rekic. So unless they have a lot of faith in them, it might be a bit too much. They might have to shell down for one more defender. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they have been linked with Pepe recently. Maybe it would be a good idea to get him, but I don't know. Pepe would actually fit the EPL, don't you think, 13Goals?
Real Madrid's Pepe.
Yep.
He's definitely got the physicality for it, I'll give him that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Whether he suits the Premier League, he'd have to settle into a new team. Well, I'm sure the money helps out with that.
Hey, at least he's got kicking motion, that's all you need.
Does he have action grip?
Okay, let's move on from that. Now let's focus on Pellegrini as Pellegrini just as a manager. He came off of that heartbreaking loss to Dortmund at the end of his season at Malaga. Plus, Malaga were suspended from UEFA for, I believe it was a season. So taking all those things into consideration, and considering that he came off the Real Madrid job and then he went to Manchester City, 13Goals, do you think he'll have similar problems that he did at Real Madrid? Similar problems like he did at Real Madrid in Manchester City?
Well, Real Madrid are kind of like a similar animal to Manchester City now. Lots of money being thrown around, lots of big egos, lots of big trouble because of them big egos. So, it kind of is the same. He's really got to kind of get in there and prove that he is the dominant man in that dressing room. And to show, to have all the others, under his control, otherwise they're gonna be sold off. He really needs to have that really kind of aggressive stance which I think will help him out in the long run.
Okay, that's fair enough. Magneto, do you think this Pellegrini coming in was the right decision in the perspective of Manchester City? Obviously, they really didn't have much choice. They just had to activate his release clause. But do you think this is the man going forward that will get? Obviously, City are focused on that Champions League, which they haven't done really well. Do you think going forward, he's the man that'll give him the league, the Champions League, and other fronts as well?
Well, that's why Mancini got sacked, didn't he? Because of their poor Champions League runs. It's not really how he's done in the league. The league was fine. He's been doing pretty well there, but the Champions League, his formations, his strategies never worked out. And right now Pellegrini is the exact opposite, right? He does very well in the Champions League. You saw how he's taken Malaga down all the way up to the semi-finals against Dortmund. So I think he's going to be better. He has a better understanding of the quarterfinal. He has a better understanding of the Champions League than Mancini does. Is he going to fit into the league as such? I'm a little worried. He probably will, because the other teams are still in transition. They are a little weakened and whatnot. But in general, looking at the formation and the players that he's brought in, I'm a little unconvinced that he understands the Premier League.
Okay. That's a fair assessment, I guess, going forward. It'll be interesting to see how Manchester City deal with Pellegrini and how much patience they have. But having said that, Magneto, I will say that I think Manchester City will have a bounce back bounce back season in the Champions League. I think they'll do much better under Pellegrini than they did under Messi.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, that's why they brought him in, and he well tuned the squad to perform better in the Champions League. Is that going to hit their Premier League? Is another question that remains to be answered.
Maybe that. Do you think? Okay, here's a specific question for you, since you brought this up. Sorry, 13 goals. I'm pushing you for this. Do you think do you think if they perform poorly in the league that Manchester City will start to focus a lot more on the Champions League, like Pellegrini did with Malaga? Or do you think he'll find a more balanced formula?
You know, I'm not going to be too shocked to see Manchester City focusing on the Champions League this time and kind of dropping the ball a little in the Premier League. They have the squad to focus on both, to be fair. But if they do struggle a little, then I wouldn't be too shocked to see, you know, let's abandon all the pretenses of going for the Premier League and just focus all out on the Champions League. It's possible.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a question I just want to throw out to you. For Manchester City, this is 13 goals, just so you don't feel too left out. Manchester City hold the cheapest season tickets in England. Now, obviously, in comparison to Germany, it's quite literally nothing, but, going forward, do you think this is gonna be more and more the scheme for, Manchester City? Low season tickets and garnering more support for the club?
Low season ticket?
I mean low...
Not like 500 quid.
It's lower than most of the clubs.
It's lower than all the other clubs, but it has got a tiny bit ridiculous now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
If you're spending £500 just in like the worst possible, like the lowest place in the stadium, not even the nice seats, which are like flipping expensive. Football's got really ridiculous when it comes to ticket prices. And people acting like Manchester City are doing extremely well by having their ticket prices, £500 considering to everyone else. One, they're cash rich, and two, £500 is still a hell of a lot of money, even in today's environment.
Okay, so if you compare that to Germany, then Germany are doing a really good job.
You aren't comparing it to Arsenal.
Oh my god, no, let's not go there. We'll leave that for Sunday. We'll leave that for the next part. Anyways, Magneto, I'll throw this at you too. Do you think that this is eventually gonna help the marketing side, for Manchester City in the long run?
Yeah, look, Manchester City, there's no question that they have empty seats in the stadium quite a bit of the time. They need to fill their seats up somehow. And they have the money. They don't need an injection of money like, say, Arsenal or Spurs do from the stadium, the ticket sales. So what they can afford to do is lower the value of the season tickets and encourage more people to come in. And the more people come in, the more options they have of selling their merchandise, which is going to be priced a bit higher than the season tickets. So it's a good decision overall. They've taken a different route to, a lot of the other clubs. This is going to venture a bit too far off topic, but there have been, smaller issues where, I believe Liverpool and a couple of other clubs, they're starting a kind of rally against the season ticket prices and the ticket prices in general. And they're meeting up with the Premier League, officials, and they're taking it seriously. Even the Premier League is meeting up with them. So the whole concerns of the Premier League becoming a bit too expensive is quite genuine. So Manchester City, while it's like they're hitting two birds with one stone. They're getting both management, they're getting more fans into the club, as well as they're, trying to ensure that the stadiums are filled.
That's actually a very good way to actually fill the stadium. They do have the money to do it, but if you're Arsenal or Tottenham, obviously not the greatest way to do it. Obviously,
and they also got given that stadium. So they don't need to sell off any loans or anything.
Yeah, exactly so. Anyways, that covers the two Manchester cities, but now we move to Merseyside. Now we go to Everton first. Everton, obviously, they came off a very close season where they almost got top four, but they just finished outside, but behind Tottenham at 6th place. But they did finish ahead of Liverpool. I guess that's some consolation for them. But, they were in, competition for that final 4th spot till the last 4 weeks, I would say. I think about, possibly the last 4 or 5 games of the season. That's when Arsenal and Tottenham start to really pick up gear. Anyways, Everton lost David Moyes, who's been at the club for over 10 years now, and they brought in FA Cup winner Roberto Martinez. And now Magneto, Everton has now got just like Manchester United, they have a culture change with do you think they'll have a culture change at Everton now, or do you think Martinez is the manager that'll carry over Moyes' work and he'll do better with the squad that he has?
It'll be a massive culture change. The way Moyes actually runs the club is going to be almost a polar opposite of what Martinez does. You just take a look at the formations. Moyes always prefers to have a solid back line where, he tries to ensure that he doesn't concede too many. Whereas Martinez, in all the clubs he's led so far, they have a shaky back line, they experiment with the defensive formations. It's going to be a completely different approach to how Everton play football. So, even some Everton fans, they kind of sometimes they used to get behind Moyes and say, he encourages boring football and stuff like that. A bit harsh, to be honest. But, Martinez, I think that he will bring forth a new philosophy to the club. He will bring forth a bit more attacking nous. And it's going to be interesting to see how they feel, how the whole club, responds to this. But Moyes, he is going to be missed terribly by the club, especially by the admins. For a not that huge budget, he's always done well. And he's always pulled the club up. And, to outperform Liverpool for 2 seasons in a row with the budget that they have versus the budget that Liverpool has. And he almost pushed Spurs until the very end last season. And, yeah, they're going to miss him a lot.
Yeah, it's a very big change coming to Everton Football Club in the upcoming season. But 13Goals, do you think that Martinez is the man to take this team, club forward? I mean, with the players that Everton have, they have quite a bit of creativity, and they do have the steel with Fellaini. So, do you think Martinez has the pieces in place to possibly make a run in the EPL, to possibly get top 5, top 4, possibly?
I'll come back to that in a sec, but can I just say, you mentioned that Moyes had been there for 10 to 15 years?
Around almost 10
Just
years,
hit me how old I feel.
Yeah, he's been there for a while now.
I mean, it's just but yeah, with Martinez, they could go on a run, and yet they could not at the same time. I mean, cause Martinez, with Moyes first. Moyes was, he was very rigid, he would have 4 at the back, he would have 4 in midfield with a guy who was always, dropping deep, either Fellaini or Ross Barkley in later years. And he would, like Magneto said, he would not like to concede many goals. In fact, if I remember correctly, they were the least amount of goals conceded last season. And but with Martinez, it's more kind of flow. It's more kind of passing
fluid football.
Yeah, and I'm guessing he's going to move around the system. I mean, he moved around Wigan's system in last season about 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
and he's a bit different with Moyes on transfers as well. Because Moyes liked to always make up what he lost. Like if he brought in Jelavic, he'd sell off enough players in the club to cover to kind of cover that, because Everton are not in the best financial situation at the moment.
Okay.
So it's just gonna be, like Magneto said, a massive culture shock to both Everton and Everton fans.
Yeah, just to correct you, Everton conceded the fourth least goals in the league. I just wanted to get back to you about transfers. You said that Moyes made some pretty good signings, but just to argue that a little bit, I'd argue that Martinez made some pretty good signings as well over his time at Wigan. He did sign Antonio Valencia, and he did sign a couple of like James MacArthur. Then he had Hugo Rodallega, and then he had Victor Moses to work with. So to credit Martinez in a bit here, I think he does have the experience in the transfer market.
I never said Martinez was a bad transfer,
no, but I'm just saying.
Like, he's a bit the way Moyes used to do it.
Exactly, and that's exactly why I think in the transfer market wise, I think Everton I'll be exactly fine. So I don't think they'll have a problem with the transfer front, but I do worry about how Martinez plays, because he does play wing backs, and he does play with 3 in the back. So at Wigan anyways, maybe he'll change. But let me just move on to transfers now, since we did just talk about transfers.
I'm worried about how much he's buying from Wigan.
Yeah, and transfers is the immediate concern. They already bought, this is for Magneto, they already bought in 2 players from Wigan. Do you think Martinez looking at Wigan seems to suggest that he's going to use the Wigan formation, or do you think this is just to build on what he has right now?
I have a feeling he is going to do a Wigan. I mean, he's going to do the same formation. Maybe slightly it might work better with better players. I mean, Wigan, with all due respect, didn't have the best talent defensively. They had always decent attackers, but they didn't have the best defensive talent. So, he is bringing a lot of players. It's actually 3 players. Joe, who was on loan, they bought him. They got Alcaraz on a free, and then they got Kone. So it's 3 players from Wigan already. And I also suspect that if Fellaini leaves, they're going to get, McCarthy from Wigan. Just a suspicion.
Yeah.
So, it feels like he's going to do what he did with Wigan, but on a bigger scale. So, it's not going to be, I don't expect to see too much different from Martinez with regards to his formation and regards to his gameplay.
Okay, now you're saying that, you're suggesting that he'll use wingbacks. Now, I'll ask you this. Do you think Leighton Baines will have his best career statistics season if they do plan on using Baines as a wingback?
Brilliant, yes. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how many Baines actually did, but last season, I think he was the best crosser in the league. And this was as a more defensive back, he wasn't exactly a wing back, but he did charge down forward a lot more, and with 4 defenders only. Now if you take a 5 defender formation, and he's given more flexibility to bomb down the flanks and play a bit more aggressively, he's going to put in a lot more crosses than he has previously, because his defensive work rate is going to decrease. So, yeah, I think statistically he is going to become a lot better, and his best qualities will come out under Martinez's formation.
Okay, you heard that, EPL fantasy guys. Get Leighton Baines. Yeah, but I'll throw this to 13 goals. They also bought in a player from Barcelona on loan, and that's Gerard Delofo. Obviously, they spelt his name wrong on the official unveiling of Everton's shirt unveiling. But what do you think Delofo brings to the squad? He was obviously the one player that didn't come from Wigan. How do you think he fits into the squad? He's very young. I believe he's 17-ish. So how do you think Delofo is going to do with working with Martinez?
Oh, he's a great player and a good loan by Barcelona to loan him to thing. Probably got him through his Spanish connections. I mean, it's a huge step up from Barcelona B to the EPL. I think he'll do well. I don't think I think he'll do moderately okay. Like maybe like say like 4, 5 assists and maybe a goal or two. I just, at that young age and, moving like right up to the Premier League in a top 10 side, he would have to be like probably one of the best, youth prospects in the next 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, that's, he did look very talented, in, I believe it was the under-19 cup. I'm having the conflict here. Either it was the under-19 cup or it was the U21. I'm not sure which one, but,
Was it the one where Spain dominated?
No, it was the one where they lost. Was it the U20 World Cup? I think it was the U20 World Cup. That's where Delofo played. I can't remember, but he had a good tournament with Jesse on the other side. So I think it was the U20 World Cup. I can't really remember at the moment. But,
it was the U20. Morata, Jesse, and
yeah. It was the U20 World Cup. Thank you for that, Magneto. So I think you could build on that. I think all three Jesse did very well. So moving on, though, Everton had a couple of players.
One last thing.
Okay, sure.
Sorry, but one last thing with regards to this. I actually disagree here. One simple test case is, oh god damn it, what's this, Victor Moses. What he's done with Moses is going to be pretty similar to what, Liverpool is going to be doing. Just saying. He's going to mold them in the same way he played Victor Moses.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work out.
Up a lot, though.
Yeah, that's not gonna work out. If Martinez does really try to do that, I don't think it'll work out. Okay, I'll just touch on this since we're talking transfers. Fellaini and Baines are obviously linked with Manchester United. We'll just quickly point this out. 13 goals. Do you think one of them will eventually go out, or do you think both will stay?
I have like a strong inkling that United will go in for Fellaini and most likely get him. Baines, I'm not too sure, considering what a key factor he was in their getting above Liverpool last season. I mean, he took the free kicks. I think at one point he took the penalties. He was just all
he did take the penalties, yeah.
When he created like 116 chances.
Yeah, he did.
So, I mean, he was all over the pitch, and whenever I'd watch the highlights on Match of the Day, he would always be a player of interest for them.
Yeah, Baines, if you guys would like to know something interesting, Baines actually played at Wigan, so maybe before Everton bought him, so it might be interesting to see what Martinez does with him, considering he did sort of coach him, I believe, at one point. Magneto, what do you think Fellaini and Baines are going to be at Everton this upcoming season, or do you think one of them will eventually, or maybe both of them?
I think Baines will remain, but Fellaini will go to Manchester United.
Okay.
Baines is not that desperate. He knows that if he stays at Everton, he's still going to get noticed. He knows that the formation is going to suit him. Fellaini, Moyes is a little desperate to get in a central, midfielder who can perform a few different roles. So, to me, it adds up.
Okay, that's fair enough. Just one more point. Do you think players like Jelavic, who only had 7 goals last season, will have, this is for, Magneto, sorry, do you think players like Jelavic would have a bounce back season, considering they had a poor season? And do you think players like Morales are gonna suffer from this? Do you see any players like really drastically affected by Martinez's coming in?
I think, Jelavic is actually going to have a better season. It's a question of putting faith in a player, and Moyes used him a little on and off. Jelavic was excellent when he was at Rangers before they went down. And now, last season, he was excellent in the first half of the season where he transferred in, but last season he was a bit up and down. But I believe the new formation, and he's going to try and impress the manager all over again, and all this change is going to suit Jelavic more than anybody else in the squad.
Do you think it's going to adversely affect anyone?
Adversely, not really. I don't think so. I believe they're going to have pretty much the same thing going forward. Kone is another player whom he's bringing in, so he's going to have a bit of competition with Jelavic, but I think it's only good for Everton to have, such good competition where they can push each other in. No, I don't think anybody's going to be adversely affected.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. 13 goals. Well, what is your opinion? Do you think anyone will be, who do you think will be positively affected and adversely affected, if anyone?
Positively affected? I reckon, Kone and Joel will be really affected because they're moving on up to a bigger team. They're moving, to somewhere where they can really, push on in their careers and, really make themselves known. And I can't really see it adversely affecting anyone. I mean, Martinez has his own style and his own formation, which he tends to change every so often. But he can turn players around. He has experience with a lot of, different types of players. And I reckon he could, change any negative into a positive in his favor.
Okay. That's fair enough, I guess. But, what I wanted to really ask both of you this, actually, I'll start off with 13 goals first. With Joel coming into the club, do you think Joel is gonna replace Tim Howard in nets?
No.
Magneto?
I don't think he'll replace Tim Howard. I think he just wants one good player to back up Tim Howard. And it's going to be good in a way that it's going to keep Tim Howard on his feet. It's on his toes. He's just going to try and improve and prove that he deserves to be the number one goalkeeper. And Joel, we've seen at Wigan, he did manage to push out Al-Habsi. So he knows that there's an up and coming keeper behind him. So it's always great. It's good to see that, there are two good players in a position. That's how football is kind of going towards, we all want to see an older player and a younger player trying to fight for the same position, trying to, best each other out and bringing the best out of each other at the end of the day.
Okay. And that brings us to the end of the first Merseyside club. So in this next segment, where we will discuss Liverpool, we have a very special guest with us, and her name is Jade. How are you doing today, Jade?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks.
Yeah, well, it's great having you on this podcast, and obviously, being a Liverpool supporter, we get to talk a little bit about your club. Now, this past season for Liverpool, it was, again, a little bit short of top four. You guys ended up finishing 7th. But Brendan Rodgers ended on a good note towards the end of the season. Now, for the upcoming seasons, do you think that Rodgers will have a team that is more built on chemistry that has sprung over from last season due to the strong run you had?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Go
okay,
ahead. Continue.
Yeah, because you had a strong run towards the end of the season. I was just asking, do you think it'll carry over to next season?
Yeah, definitely. I think our preseason has gone pretty well. We've made some pretty clever signings. I know we're still waiting on a couple more, but Rodgers did mention recently that he was looking for characters during the summer, looking for players that had more character, because, if you remember from last season, we lost a lot of points against the top 6 teams. And a lot of that was that we didn't start urgently. We didn't think we had it in ourselves to just really go at them. And then with players like Aspas, specifically, he's absolutely fearless. And so hopefully we'll do better, against, good opposition next season.
Okay, so top 6 is, obviously, top 6 oppositions was a problem. 13 goals. Obviously, we saw Liverpool. We played against Liverpool as Arsenal fans. What do you think are Liverpool's expectations? Do you also see as Jade was saying, Brendan Rodgers carrying over the same type of momentum that he had towards the end of the season without Luis Suarez?
Well, without him, it's going to be tough for them to get into the top four. I mean, Aspas is a great signing. I mean, one of the only reasons Celta Vigo stayed up last season. But without Suarez and his ability to score from inside that 6-yard box and outside there, it may be trouble for them.
But they do have Sturridge. Don't forget. So.
Who?
Sturridge, Daniel Sturridge.
Oh, Sturridge, yeah. Yeah, but I don't think he hasn't shown that he can carry the team on his own.
Well,
The team can help though, but if they lose Suarez, that's a freaking...
Well, we'll get to Suarez a little bit later. Just basically, what do you think this team's realistic expectations are next season? Do you think? Do you think? Sorry. Go ahead, Jade.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I'm optimistic. I think we'll get 5th, maybe. I know October is gonna be a major blow, and, like, who knows what's gonna happen with him. I mean, he could just decide to have an attitude for, like, I don't know, until January when we decide to get rid of him or something. But regarding what, 13Goals said about us not having Suarez, I think that might be a blessing in disguise for us. I hate to point back to the Newcastle game, as Newcastle was really terrible, but, as you guys all know, Suarez has been a major focal point for Liverpool. Like, we try to get the ball to him every single time, you know? And so I think without him, it's going to force us to play a little bit more organically, a bit more naturally, and hopefully something good might come out of that.
Okay.
And yeah.
Yeah. Since we're already on the topic, obviously there's been a saga going on for Liverpool with Luis Suarez. Now, before I go to Jade, I want to just ask Magneto. Magneto being close rivals with Arsenal, do you obviously do you see like Luis Suarez actually going to Arsenal, and what do you think of the saga in general from a neutral point of perspective, obviously, but obviously it's not completely neutral since you hate Arsenal.
Keep going, Cloudst.
I don't hate Arsenal exactly. I just think that they're good rivals. Anyway, it's a very tough situation for Liverpool to be in at this particular point of time. It's a no-win situation for them. The player is unhappy, but they don't want to sell to a rival because they know that to get into a top 4 spot, Arsenal is going to be one of their biggest challenges, along with Spurs. So it's a difficult position to be in. And I don't think Arsenal is actually going to go ahead and get Suarez. I don't think Liverpool is going to sell. And I don't think Arsenal is going to actually up their bid to, take it even further than the 40 million that's been offered.
Yeah, that's fair enough. We'll give our opinions on the Suarez, on the next podcast, but I want to get to Jade. Jade, what do you think of the whole Suarez saga? This has raised, obviously, a couple of questions about, FSG. Do you think they've handled it well, and how do you think, Liverpool as a club is seen right now?
I definitely think it was probably a bit embarrassing for us that Suarez was just running his mouth during the confeds and everything. But, in regards to like the past couple of days, I really think that Brendan Rodgers and John Henry have done really well in just being like Luis Suarez, like, you need to be quiet and just sit tight because you're not going anywhere. I know John Henry, he did that tweet about what are they smoking at the Emirates. So, I really think that he's kind of trying to make it up to the fans, considering that he is the guy that fired King Kenny Dalglish. And so, yeah, both Brendan and Mr. Henry have been very hardline on their decision not to sell, and I think they'll hold true this time.
Okay, I'll go back to Rodgers in a bit because I do have a question about him. Not that
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna charge you about it, but I just want to go to your additions at first. You guys, Liverpool added in Kolo Toure, Luis Alberto, Igo Aspas, Timo Milne.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of these signings so far? Are you happy with them? And are you happy with with the squad, the transfers that are going to be helping the squad so far?
Yeah, I think the signings so far have been really prudent. I think we're definitely still after a left back now that it seems that Downing is on his way out. And so yeah, we're looking for left back to give Enrique a little bit of competition because, he does seem to stagnate a little bit, I guess in like the middle of the season. And as far as I know, we're still on the case for Papadopoulos, but I guess because I know earlier in the summer there were rumors that Martin Skrtel was going to go to Napoli, but now he seems to be staying, so I don't know where that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you're very happy, are you happy with the transfers or?
I'd say 80%.
80%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair enough. I'll ask a neutral perspective. 13Goals, how do you perceive Liverpool's signings this season? Because they did make a couple of shrewd signings with Igor Aspas and Mignolet especially.
Yeah, Mignolet is definitely like a 5 out of 5 signing, but and Aspas, I'd probably say he's a bit more like a 4 out of 5. I mean, he's a good striker, but he will need a lot of help there. Hopefully he can get that from Coutinho and Sturridge, as long as Sturridge nipping in a few goals as well. Kolo Touré is a bit of a strange one, because he was great when he was with Arsenal, and he did pretty well at Manchester City, winning he won like a Premier League medal, and I think he also won an FA Cup medal.
Yeah, he won both.
FA Cup
medal.
He
won both. Yeah.
Oh, he won both. So he's a bit of a shrewd signing, a bit on the old side, but I guess they must be pretty sure that they're keeping both Skrtel and Agger, considering Agger's been given the vice captain. And Luis Alberto, I haven't really made up my opinion on that. I mean, he's a good signing. So I reckon he'll be a good signing, but I just don't know. I haven't seen enough of him yet.
Okay, Magneto, what'd you make of Liverpool's business so far? Do you think they'll be able to build a team going forward around with this, or do you think they need to make more?
Look, honestly, I don't think Suarez is that big a situation over here. You know, what they have done last season, at the end, Suarez did get banned for quite a few games. And they still played very good football, even though Suarez wasn't there. So they've actually improved their squad from that. And it's still a good squad that can do pretty well, that can play good football. Sturridge and Coutinho, their combination looks pretty good. It remains to be seen how Alberto and Aspas can add to that, but I don't think it will detract from it all that much. So I'm pretty sure that even right now, at the start of last season, sorry Jade, but he was pretty horrendous at the start, and he conceded quite a few goals that cost quite a few points. So they got an instead now, and it looks pretty decent. Their squad looks overall pretty good. Touré, a good, fourth choice defender. So yeah, as long as they can get a little bit of depth for their wing back, they're pretty good and solid. Really all depends on Suarez, and that's the bottleneck for them now.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Actually, can I ask Magneto one thing for a second?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sure.
Hey Mag, being a Spurs fan, like you've had your own troubles with one-to-way strikers in Dimitar Berbatov. What kind of advice would you give Liverpool fans about having a one-to-way striker if he wants to still leave there at the end of next season?
Look, I mean, one-to-way strikers, it's not just one-to-way strikers. We've had problems with one-to-way players for a long time now. I mean, Modric was the last example. And
now Bale.
You look at, and now Bale could be a possibility, but that's a whole different game altogether.
Yeah, obviously.
We know Modric was there in the last season where he's played a whole season where he didn't want to be. And at the end of the day, it's just a matter of the player not giving 100%. And it's not a problem of a few games, because the player will say that, he has something to prove, and he'll start off well and he'll end well. But in the mid-section of the season, that's where I see the effect coming in, normally. So that might be an issue for Suarez, where he starts he starts off poorly. He didn't have a a complete proper preseason. Right now, he's not even training with the team. So, my advice, I don't know, it's going to be a tough question, but if they do sell, let's come to that question. Where is the replacement going to come from? We know that a lot of clubs are looking for strikers, and they may have the money in their bank, but there's no replacement in sight, and for that reason,
Diego Costa? Like they gonna
I don't think they're the same type of player though.
No, but it's
Yeah.
just
I don't
a
know.
short-term solution though. What do
Yeah,
you
but
think?
Costa's
Yeah.
a cam, not a striker.
No, he's a second striker. He can play up front.
He's mostly as a cam.
Well, the reason why he played as a second striker to Falcao is because Falcao was their striker. How would you like to play as Falcao's striker? So
I'll tell you, Zilch would love it.
exactly. Yeah, but I think this upcoming season, Diego Costa would be their starting center forward. I think he is their starting center forward. Maybe even Adrian, but I'm not sure about that. Well, moving on though. Jade, Liverpool also let go of a lot of players. Obviously, Jamie Carragher retired. And you let go of Andy Carroll and John Shelby as well, and Jay Spearing recently left as well. But I want to focus more on the Pepe Reina, letting go of Pepe Reina. Pepe Reina said that he only knew about the transfer the day he left, I believe it was, for Napoli. How do you think the club was? Why do you think the club informed him so late about the transfer? Do you think it was an issue of communication between the two, or do you think the club just lost his faith in Pepe Reina?
Well, this is a little bit controversial, but I'm not really that inclined to believe that Pepe Reina just didn't know that he was going to get transferred out. Especially as, 2 seasons ago when he and Torres were still at Liverpool, they were talking about how, at least he was, I don't think he was quoted per se, but it was something about how, if Arsenal came in with a 20 million bid, he'd just go because Liverpool weren't going anywhere. So, I'm sure he had a great one at Liverpool, but, he wasn't playing well and he knew it. I wish him all the best at Napoli, but I didn't read his letter and then cry. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I completely get it. But,
Yeah.
it was, do you feel that it was kind of poor, if Pepe Reina's to be believed, do you think it was a little bit of a poor handling from Liverpool's perspective?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as Brendan Rodgers is always touting, we're a family, we have to respect each other. So, yeah, that was poor.
So I'll just flip this over to Magneto. Obviously there's been a lot made through the Suarez saga between class and, the talk of class and stuff, but, this Reina move, what does it tell us, about, if Reina is, obviously this is from Pepe Reina's perspective, we don't actually know if Liverpool actually did do this, but Reina is accusing them that they did do it. What do you think, is made of all this?
The inference that we can draw is that Liverpool are doing 2 things. One, they are playing to their own supporters. They're trying to ensure that they get some bonus points in, saying the right things, like what's Arsenal smoking and all that kind of stuff. But in general, they are breaking down their relationship with a lot of clubs. They are coming off as a bit media aggressive. And it's going to hurt them maybe in the long run. It's, with regards to Pepe Reina, I think fair dues to Liverpool. He went on to say that if Barcelona comes, I want to leave. So when you say that, you kind of know that, you're not going to be loyal. So the club just said, okay, if you want to leave, then even if Barcelona doesn't come in, we'll just ship you out. So it's not that big a situation here, I think.
Okay, that's fair enough. 13Goals, do you want to add something onto that, on the Reina situation?
Not really, but I do want to say one thing. I really hate what the word class has become. It's become
Oh gosh, amen.
a buzzword.
Ugh.
An advertising word.
So since we are already on the topic, Jade, I just want to throw this out at you. Obviously, the relationship between Liverpool, well, maybe between the supporters, between Arsenal and Liverpool, have taken really traumatic downturn, which was pretty much a pretty respectable relationship before, has now really turned sour with the Suarez saga.
I don't think I'm from that side of the fandom.
Well, I mean,
I think that's better left to...
Yeah, but,
yeah.
So you wouldn't have an opinion on that.
No.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to ask you though that, Brendan Rodgers came out and said that Arsenal were a classless club. Now, do you think it, from a neutral perspective, do you think that was the right thing to say? I mean, given that Liverpool obviously are greatly linked with the media, but do you think that was the correct thing to say at the time?
No, but I mean, Brendan Rodgers, like, sometimes he takes it a little bit too far. I don't think it was the right thing to say. I think that's very harsh.
Okay. Obviously, you don't. Yeah.
It was actually a pretty bad thing to say because Arsenal didn't go out to say anything as such from a neutral perspective. It was, they just made the bid, but the entire review of what was behind the scenes, it was all done by, Liverpool. And it was Rodgers who came out and said one thing one day, and then Henry comes and says something else. Rodgers then backs it up again. It was a whole mishap, frankly.
But don't you think bidding like 40 million and then £1, like really?
Well, I'd like to go into this a little bit.
Okay.
Since we're already on it. Suarez's agent, who's Pere Guardiola, and we all hate agents. I've said this many times. I hate agents. I think the agents nowadays are just scum. They're just out for money. So what Pere Guardiola told Gazidis and possibly the Arsenal side is that Arsenal had to bid 40 million plus to activate a clause which enabled the Arsenal to speak with Luis Suarez. So Pere Guardiola suggested that we make the bid of 40 million plus one. So technically speaking, we were just following the instructions of his agent. Now, how Liverpool defined that is obviously up to Liverpool. Obviously in the media it looked like a complete circus show. But, at the end of the day, if you look at it from a business perspective, Arsenal was fully acting in the rights of the business side of things, since his agent, suggested that to do this. So, it all comes down to how you define what that is. I don't think that Arsenal in any intention was trying to disrespect Liverpool in any such way. I mean, Arsene Wenger always came out and he said he wanted to deal with Liverpool amicably. So I really do think we had no intention of doing that. But like Magneto said, it was Liverpool eventually who started to reveal everything. So it's basically it's just a misinterpretation that just went too far ahead. And that's my take on it. 13 goals, would you add? Yeah, 13 goals. Would you like to add in something?
For the whole Brendan Rodgers thing, it probably most likely come down to inexperience. I mean, this is his first time in front with a big club such as Liverpool with a lot of history. It's like he only spent 1 year at Swansea, coming off his coaching job at Chelsea. So he never really had to deal with stuff on this kind of a grand scale. With this and the 40 million £1 bid, the problem I see with that is people focus way too much on the £1 instead of the 40 million, which you could probably go out and spend and buy a small country with. So that's my 2 cents. Back to you.
Okay.
Okay.
You may be able to buy a country, but you can't buy a striker.
Oh, don't worry.
Don't worry.
Don't worry. The next podcast will get you good, Maddie. We'll get you good. Anyways, we'll end this Liverpool segment with a bit of a high note. for Liverpool. Liverpool assigned Daniel Agger as their vice captain today. Obviously, he was being linked with Barcelona since 2 weeks now, I believe. So, what do you think that does for Liverpool as a club? Obviously, there was obviously all that media circus was ours. You get to have something outside of that. How do you feel about Agger being the vice captain for Liverpool now?
Well, I'm really happy about it. I think he's someone who's definitely like a leader at the back. And like Jared's still gonna be here, but just to have him in that role cemented is I think he might, like, this kind of goes back to what Rodgers was saying about players with character. Maybe he's been kind of toning it down a bit because he didn't have that stature, but I mean, this is kind of sacrilegious, but now that Kara is gone, he's definitely gonna be like Jared's right-hand man, like yelling at everyone. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a good sign for Liverpool, but 13 goals, what do you think of Agger's appointment as vice captain? Obviously, this is taking over from Jim Carragher. Do you think this is, in the long run, this is going to be good for Liverpool?
Well, it's definitely a good choice. I mean, Agger's always comes off as a bit of a smaller leader on the pitch. So I reckon it's a good choice. I mean, there's always speculation over big players such as him. So I reckon it's a good captaincy choice. I mean, he's big, he's strong, he comes from Denmark.
So does Bentner.
Oh God damn it! Don't. I'll need a shower after him.
Okay, Magneto. What do you think about the appointment of Daniel Agger as the vice captain of Liverpool?
It does two things. It kind of shows him that, that he's the central figure to their, plans ahead. And Agger is well known for that tattoo of his, where he's, put in, walk alone, with fight of DNA on his hands.
Yeah.
So, it's a whole thing where, they just want to ensure that he doesn't leave, and he's also a good choice for captain, as a vice captain. It's also a credit to, just throwing it out. Jamie Carragher, he's been an absolute legend for the club. And if anybody's got to take over from a person who loved the club so much, might as well be him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said.
Okay, and that concludes the Liverpool segments of this podcast. Thank you, Jade, for joining us. It was a very, very, very good to have you on. And have a very Liverpool perspective of things to come. Thank you for joining us, Jade.
Thank you.
And so we've reached the end of the podcast. Obviously, we want to thank Jade, who was our Liverpool representative for the podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, Jade. And from the rest of the crew, obviously Magneto and 13 Goals, will be joined by you for the part 2 of the EPL podcast with 2 other special guests as well. So from all of us here at Fourth Place Trophy Blog, see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.